Part of my interest in experimental archaeology extends beyond textiles and working with historical clothing. I'm also fascinated by the sleeping and eating practices of people throughout history, as you've maybe been able to tell through my historical Food Week and Sleep Week series. A while back, I began reading a book called The Oldest Cuisine in the World, Cooking in Mesopotamia by Jean Bottéro, translated by Teresa Lavender Fagan. And I became quite intrigued by understanding the world's oldest written recipes better. Obviously, I just had to try a recipe out for myself. This is an experimental archaeology channel. What else would you expect? All throughout history, people have needed food to survive. It's a core biological requirement, but it also was and is a source of social engagement, pleasure, and entertainment. And even deeper, it could have had spiritual and ceremonial significance as well, used for rituals, prayers, and offerings to the gods. Eating practices and recipes from the past have a lot to teach us about their respective societies, and the oldest written recipes are no different. Now you're likely wondering where exactly the world's oldest written recipes were found. The world's oldest written recipes are actually a collection of around 40 different recipes, so for the sake of this video, I'm only going to be selecting and cooking one of them. These recipes were found on what is called the Yale Culinary Tablets, and these are clay tablets that contain Babylonian recipes. 3 of the 4 tablets that were discovered date from around 1600 BCE, so they're especially ancient. Interestingly enough, the 3 tablets actually aren't related to one another, as in the hand that wrote them is not the same, nor the format or the clay, but what does connect them together is the fact that they all contain recipes from this period, and they were likely discovered together as well. Each of the recipes is also typically separated by a horizontal line, thus making it independent from the others when they're all on the same tablet. The 3 clay tablets have different levels of preservation. Tablet A is the best preserved one, and it contains 25 recipes in total, including 4 types of vegetable broths and 21 types of meat broths. This is going to be the tablet that I try a recipe from because the others have a lot of question marks around certain terms and also a lot of missing words. So interpreting them for a recipe will not only be much more difficult, but it's also likely less historically accurate since I'll be having to fill in a lot of the gaps myself. Hence why I'm going to be going with a recipe from Tablet A. You might be wondering what language these recipes are all written in. The Yale Culinary Tablets are written in cuneiform in the Akkadian language, and I'm someone that is also deeply fascinated by languages because, much like textiles, food, and lifestyles of people in the past, language was also something that they utilized every day. I mean, even today we utilize language every day. I've been learning Italian for some months now due to its practical application in my work since there's a lot that happened in Italy during the Middle Ages and I do medieval reenactment. It's estimated that only around 13% of Italians speak English, so knowing some Italian really comes in handy when I'm there for a reenactment or for doing research. One of the ways that I've been learning Italian and keeping up with my practice is thanks to the paid partner of this video, Rosetta Stone. Rosetta Stone is a language learning program that uses a dynamic immersion method which mimics the way that we all learned languages as children. They help you to go from just learning the new language to actually thinking in the language. And this form of learning makes the process of speaking feel intuitive and natural. Each immersive lesson can be as short as 5 minutes, meaning that their language learning options can fit into your life even if you have a busy schedule. And you can follow Rosetta Stone's lessons on your desktop, but if you're on the go, they also have a simple to use mobile app. I like to practice Italian first thing in the morning when my brain is fresh, especially because I'm learning multiple languages at once. So I like to practice the ones that I'm more knowledgeable of in the evening, and then the newer languages, I tend to learn them in the morning. With the exclusive link in my bio or by scanning the QR code here on screen, you can access all 25 languages from Rosetta Stone. You even can get an exclusive discount by clicking the link. Thanks so much to Rosetta Stone for partnering with me for this video, and now let's get to cooking the oldest cuisine in the world. Hi everyone, I'm in my kitchen. So in addition to containing a series of around 40 recipes, these Yale clay tablets also describe an honest and real account of the principles of food preparation and techniques governing societal tastes, as well as the food that they would consume during this period. In fact, there's a few chapters in the oldest cuisine in the world that describe these preparation methods as well as the realities of cooking and eating that these ancient Mesopotamians understood and were extremely aware of. For instance, the Epic of Gilgamesh shows us that they differentiated between what was called a natural food and an artificial food. A natural food would be one that wouldn't require human intervention to prepare. So for instance, you're out in the wild and you forage some berries, and those berries are just automatically edible food. As long as they're edible berries, of course, you don't need any poisonous ones, that's not edible. And then on the other hand, an artificial food would be one such as soup or a meat that you would need to roast over a fire. These are foods that require human intervention for their preparation and consumption. And this is what they saw as strictly pertaining to eating. In all honesty, these classifications make perfect sense to my brain, but it also just is not really categories that we tend to separate in the modern world, at least not in the West. I feel like if we're eating natural food, it's kind of like a snack, though I would maybe consider it like a food. I'm sure there are some brilliant hunter-gatherer societies out there that have a similar way of conceptualizing food and eating though. So for the sake of this video, we are of course focusing on ancient Mesopotamian concepts of artificial food, so to speak. And food preparation-wise, during this period in ancient Mesopotamia, two primary forms of cooking would have been common or the standard, since most of what early humans consumed had to be first artificialized in some way. Cooking is not only an activity and a celebration, but also a dire necessity. Which is why when fire was first discovered, it completely revolutionized humanity, because not only does it offer light and warmth, it also now offers a brand new way to make food far safer for consumption, far more palatable, and far more digestible. I also sit back and wonder what the most important inventions of humanity were, and my mind very often settles on the idea that perhaps fire and string are the most important. Maybe this is part of why I'm so passionate about Stone Age skills as well. Two of my favorite inventions were literally discovered during the Stone Age. So the first primary form of cooking, now that I've gone on my little passionate rant about fire, is direct cooking, which is where ingredients are directly set over a fire and left to cook, whether this be roasting, grilling, or baking. And in ancient Mesopotamia, archaeological evidence shows us that this type of direct cooking was typically done over a form of a hearth. These were usually outdoors, and they could be circular or rectangular, and they typically had a border of stones, bricks, or simply soil. They could be built up or hollowed out. This information all comes from page 46 of the oldest cuisine in the world, in case you're curious. And then the second form of cooking in ancient Mesopotamia is indirect cooking, which was typically indirect cooking in a pot-shaped vessel in a fatty broth. The recipes of the Yale Culinary Tablets support this, as many of them are in fact designed as indirectly being cooked in fatty broth, though some of them are also cooked on a metal kettle, but I'll get to that later. Of course, the recipes, however, don't describe the duration of time that the ingredients would have been cooked or the exact methods that may have been used by the chef, so these are left up to interpretation, which is what I'm about to do when I get to cook in this recipe. There's also this idea of pre-cooking in ancient Mesopotamia, which is where before being placed in a pot and cooked with liquid, some ingredients may have been pre-cooked in a kettle, which is what I was just talking about, or it's at least described as a kettle. I'm not completely sure what shape this would have been or what it would have looked like, and if it would have been anything like our modern day kettle over here, but basically meat, for instance, may have been placed on a surface of heated metal on high heat and then browned, pretty similar to how things are done today actually in some recipes. We don't know whether or not they added liquid during this browning process, so that's also left a bit up to interpretation, though the recipe I'll be using, you'll see it talks about straining off the liquid, but I don't know if that's actually like the meat creating the liquid that it already made, or if you have to add liquid. We won't really be getting into this too much in this video because it's a longer subject, but sometimes food in ancient Mesopotamia also would have been prepared without heat. This was done typically in the form of dehydration, salt curing, oil preservation, sometimes using cold and ice. This one really surprised me actually, and also things like stored bread. Needless to say, these tablets are an incredibly invaluable resource to better understand Mesopotamian societies, cuisines, tastes, as well as how they prepared their food. Fagan even writes in the oldest cuisine in the world, everything in their daily lives, including their religious behavior, their concepts of life and death, were necessarily and strongly integrated into the cycle of eating and drinking, from page 4. Well, I hope you now know a lot more about ancient Mesopotamian cooking practices now that I've gone on my little rant. The recipe I selected for today is number 10 from tablet A, and it's called zamzaganu. I think that's how you pronounce it, though I don't speak Akkadian, so. The recipe says to scatter cut up pieces of meat in a kettle and cook. Clean some baru and add it to the fire. Baru are dates, apparently. Before removing the kettle from the fire, strain the cooking liquid and stir in mashed leek and garlic, and a corresponding amount of raw shuhutinu, which according to Google is an ancient type of root vegetable that was consumed in Mesopotamia, likely something along the modern day parsnip or carrot. So over here, I have all of my ingredients, some chopped up lamb meat, chopped up dates without the pits, mashed leek and garlic, and some ground carrot. And I also have some butter here, which I'm going to use to make sure that the meat doesn't get super stuck to the pan. To mimic the metal kettle, I'll be using a cast iron pan. Let's cook this dish up and try it out. My tables are all currently occupied, so I'm gonna be trying the food here standing against this white backdrop. All right, here it is, as you can see. There we go. Oh, one fell almost down. All right, let's give it a little taste. Wow. Mmm. Wow, it is really tasty. The leek and garlic is a very strong flavor, but it's so nice with the sweetness of the dates and then the crunch of the carrot. It's really, really good, actually. I've never thought to make this myself, even though I'm quite an adventurous cook, but this is delicious. There's not even any salt added, but it's still delicious. The sweetness is so nice too, and the lamb, so good. Wow, I will definitely make this again. I would give this a 9 out of 10. It's so incredibly good. I usually rate things by 5, don't I? So I guess 4.5 out of 5, something like that. So yeah, absolutely delicious. I would highly recommend this ancient Mesopotamian recipe. I thought it was really, really good. I will definitely be cooking this again sometime, maybe for some friends if they come over. But thank you all so much for watching and for going on this little ancient Mesopotamian adventure with me. I will see you all in the next video. Bye bye.